Are you growing in your local community, wondering if you can take the next step to expand into franchising? Perfect timing. Today's episode is all about franchising your business and expanding your market reach. I am Dawn Avamondi, CMO with SMB Franchise Advisors.
Awesome, Dawn. I'm super excited today. We're going to talk about a pretty hot topic in the industry, or really just overall, if you're a business, you're trying to find these different methods to grow your business. Maybe you're starting to contemplate franchising, but you have your business, you're in your local community. At what point should you start to maybe consider the idea of franchising? Is it, you're having success in your local market? Where do you start to consider the idea of franchising?
Josh, that's an excellent question. One of the things that I love to talk about is when somebody is looking to expand. So if you look at how much it might cost to expand your presence of your brand, whether it's opening up a new market, expanding delivery, or opening another retail location or a restaurant, it's really good to consider, what is that startup going to be? Is it new equipment? Is it a new fit out of a brick and mortar location? Is it the marketing because maybe it's far enough away from your home base that every customer isn't going to already know where you're operating? So if you look at all of those expenses, and then also the things that aren't a direct cost, but involve time, can you manage that other territory or that other business without sacrificing what you want to do with your personal life? Then franchising might be a good consideration. It's not the right move for everybody within, expanding their brand. But we do find that those things, when you look at those investments and the time it takes, franchising is going to be that investment maybe one time, and then reinvesting franchise agreement fees into the expansion of the brand. And now instead of having 2 or 3 locations, you might have 10, 20, 50, or 100.
No, that's really interesting, Dawn. As you talk about maybe having 2 or 3 locations, how do you kind of go about best practices? If, let's say, you have a single location, you're having success, would you advise you open up maybe 2, 3 more corporate locations, or at that single location, can you start to consider franchising? Or how do you go about the different paths to start to think about having success and potentially franchising?
Yeah, Josh, both work. So we have some founders who come to us who have one operating location, and they know that there are customers that they aren't reaching because they're too far away, or they might get an occasional customer. Say it is a successful restaurant, maybe somebody will drive 45 minutes to go to that restaurant once every few months or once for a special occasion. But to be able to attract that customer on a regular basis, it might be too far. So in that case, the franchise founder says, hey, I don't really want to expand and open another location, but I feel confident that I could grow in other markets. And then we work with founders with 2 or 3 up to 25 locations who are all within a geographic area where they have pretty solid brand presence. And what they're doing is pursuing franchising as they start to expand outside of their comfort zone in terms of distance to supervise or manage those managers, or it really goes into even a slightly tweaked demographic across maybe a state line, or into an area where maybe the product names change slightly based on regional vocabulary and preferences, like soda versus soda pop. And that one's a simple thing, but you want to have, the locations speak the language of the market that they are in. And then if you're going into different states, certain seasonality will apply. Things that happen in the Northeast happen a little bit later sometimes than they might happen in the Southeast.
No, yeah, it's really interesting. It's really like you just don't know what you don't know in all these different markets. You could grow up in the Northeast, but the market down South, the Midwest, Canada, like all these markets are just so different. And trying to build the brand recognition in all these different areas can be definitely a struggle, to say the least. So as you're in that business, you're having some success, you're maybe thinking about franchising. Is there like some criteria to consider franchising where it's like, I need my financials to reach X amount, or I need to be in business for X amount of years? Are there anything like that, or is it really just based upon the demand in the market, how things play out with that business, and then as they see that future demand, as you're kind of alluding to?
So I don't think that there are any hard and fast rules. The team at SMB will definitely evaluate and look at the financial performance metrics of the business and help founders who are aspiring franchise founders to really consider whether or not franchising is the right move. And we look at many different factors. And if our recommendation is to open another location and make sure that it's going to work, sometimes there's a brand that is really special and unique, or the founder started the business and there might be some doubt that somebody else could have success doing it, then we might recommend that they open another location and set up a manager in that location and make sure that they can coach and guide that manager to find similar success. And then at that point, now they have 2 operating locations where they might be able to pull a little bit of money off the table and reinvest it into franchising.
Okay, that's really interesting, Dawn. And as we're really trying to give people those actual items as their business owner kind of thinking about these strategies, you're talking about kind of adding that second, maybe a third corporate location. You put that general manager in place, and almost similar to, one of our previous videos with finding the B2C to B2B marketing, is that general manager, how do you ensure that they're aligned with your mission, your values? Are they getting some sort of equity in the business, or how do you ensure that those general managers are incentivized to grow the business when you're not actually in the business, but really working on the business?
It's a great question. Our franchise founders have done it many different ways. I would say giving those managers equity is probably less common, but it certainly relates very closely to the way a franchisee would be expanding. They're going to be the equity holder in that business. And when somebody has a personal investment or a financial stake in a business, oftentimes they are more focused on making it a success. So, I'm not the finance person, but if somebody said, to me as a manager, I'm going to bonus you, maybe not an equity partnership, but I'm going to bonus you on the success of the business. And I've worked for large corporations, and that was really core. If the business did well and everybody contributed, then the bonus was larger. And so you got to see some success from the performance metrics, which was always a good reward. It felt positive to know that you had worked really hard and then you were recognized for that extra effort.
Yeah, I think that is powerful, whether, whatever it is, having those strong incentives so that you are aligned to also grow the business is very, very important in my opinion. And I think that's a really great point. One of the things you kind of touched upon was, maybe you have a brick and mortar style business, someone's driving 45 minutes away. So you're seeing that demand for that business. Are there any other potential indicators that maybe it's time to start to expand your business into those other markets? You're starting to see maybe a lot of customers are coming in. People maybe are saying, I want you in this town over here. Why do I have to drive 30 minutes this way? Are there any other indicator besides kind of that word of mouth from the customers?
Oh yeah. A lot of times it is customer driven, where there is a request and they're like, when are you going to open in my town? We love coming to your cafe, or we love your pizza, whatever it is. Or, I would definitely utilize your services if I didn't have to pay for travel time for a crew to come to the house. So certainly customer demand is a good pull. If you know that there are potential customers in a new market, then as a business owner, I think that gives you a sense of reassurance that there will be customers. It's sort of, if you build it, they will come. It is that they're already there and they're telling you, if you come to us, we'll support you.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. If you're, it sounds like based upon that, would it make more strategic sense to grow in local markets nearby, or do you ever see someone immediately expand to the next door state or maybe even across the country to get started? Is that something you see, or does it very much you kind of want to start slow, steady in your local markets, build a presence in your state, and then you go to expand?
So the strongest growth I have seen in the past has been kind of a ripple effect. Start local, expand from there, and then reach further and further. I definitely have had experience with brands who have gone from one side of the country to the other. And, as I talk to founders who are thinking about it, I say, okay, think about getting a call from a franchise owner who needs you. Now you have to go there. Is it a direct flight? Is it a 6-hour trip? Can you get there, or do you have to connect through, 2 different cities? So you got to spend 12 hours traveling to that franchisee. And if they really need you, wouldn't it be nice if you could just get in the car and only have to spend a couple hours driving? That way, you know that you are there for your franchisees. In the early stages, you want them to be as successful as possible. And then as you grow, you'll be able to add team members who can be in those markets so that they represent the brand and support those franchisees where they need it. And so you can't do that from the very beginning. You can't start out and have, a 10-person field team to support operations and marketing questions that are going to come up. But if you do it locally, then you have the ability to do it yourself as the founder, or to maybe tap some leaders on your team today who are in your company operations. And that's a great way to move people through. As we were talking about before, sharing in the success and the growth of the brand, now they have upward mobility. They could grow to become an area manager or a director of operations, or maybe someday the VP or, the chief operating officer.
No, that's awesome. And I'm always alluding to, like, whether it's a business, a job, people are always, I feel like, looking for the culture and then the growth opportunities. So if you can create a culture where everyone's happy, everyone's aligned, everyone's on track for the same mission, then I think you just create that natural sense of alignment. Then the law of compounding really just takes place when you're able to keep those relationships in place over the years, especially as a business owner, laying the ground, the infrastructure, and you can retain those people 5, 10, 15, 20 years later. It builds a ton of credibility, especially when you're trying to find those next franchise owners. People have genuine ties to the brand. It goes back to you're selling the story, not necessarily the product or service. And you have the team, the culture, the growth. You're going to have the story to back it up. So I think these are all some really great points for that business owner starting to get into the world of franchising. Don, do you have any kind of final points for that business owner that is going through those stages? Maybe they're having some success, but maybe they're starting to think franchising. Do you have any final words of wisdom for someone kind of going through those stages right now?
I definitely think they should do their research.
Yeah.
Franchising is a whole different business, and it takes time to build. It may take even more time to find success and the profitability than you had in your core business. But over the long term, it has upward potential. And so I think having the time and the focus and the energy to dedicate to it is essential. And then leaning on a good team to support you. Obviously, I think working with an advisory team is great. When I worked with a brand locally, I was the client with SMB. And then after I left, I kept in touch with Steve and I sold another business. I decided to join the SMB team. So I understood what it was like to be the client and have that resource of a team who had very different experience than I did. And they were able to help us. So powerful. Just surrounding yourself with the right people. It definitely does not have to be as hard as it seems. You have as much success as you can have as a business owner. It means nothing in terms of success in franchising. So it is so important. Just find people that have actually done it before, have helped, over 500 brands at this point, so that you can surround yourself with other people to leverage those resources, those relationships. Because once you get into the world of franchising, it's a people business. It's all about people. It's all about relationships. You'll see even competitors willing to share industry secrets. So the world of franchising is an amazing world, and hopefully we can welcome you and your business to the world of franchising. So if you found value in this video, like, share, comment, subscribe, help out the algorithm. Check out the SMB Franchise website where you can find all sorts of information on us. So thank you so much for everyone for tuning in today. Thank you, Josh.